The American civil rights activist John Lewis, who died in 2020, said something to the effect that if you are not angry with the world as it is at the moment, you're clearly not paying attention. The Christmas carol, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, we've not sung it this evening, but it has this verse. It says, "But with the woes of sin and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angel strain have rolled 2,000 years of wrong. A man at war with man hears not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise, ye men of strife, and hear the angels sing." I don't know about you, but I find the news very difficult to watch at the moment. The suffering is immense, whether it's the continued suffering in Gaza, the senseless shooting of innocent students in Prague, the war in Ukraine, the ruthless trafficking of vulnerable people across our world for profit, or the millions displaced from their homes because of food shortages, wars, and persecution. The last count is 82 million people are displaced from their homes. Is anyone listening to what the angels proclaimed that first Christmas? Are we listening? The message of Christmas is the arrival of Jesus. God come to us in human form. Jesus reveals God to us. The oft-repeated story goes of a young girl telling her mum proudly, "I'm drawing a picture of God." Her mum is hesitant, "But darling, no one knows what God looks like." The girl responds defiantly, "They will do by the time I've finished." Jesus paints the best possible picture of God we could ever have. He reveals God to us. He depicts the very nature of God in human form. He shows us the kindness of God, the justice of God, the wisdom of God, the love of God, the forgiveness, the gentleness, the resistance to evil, the confrontation against those who would harm others, the compassion, the patience, the self-giving love. Jesus reveals God to us. But also, Jesus brings God close to us. Author Julian Barnes, who describes himself as an agnostic and doesn't believe in the Christian understanding of God, begins his book, Nothing to be Frightened of, with the intriguing words, don't believe in God, but I miss him." Early church theologian St. Augustine of North Africa talked about a God-shaped hole in every person's heart. We're not complete, he said, until we are complete in him. Both Barnes and Augustine suggest there is a deep-seated longing in the human makeup for something other, something beyond. Jesus came to fill that hole. He came as Emmanuel. One of his titles is Emmanuel, which translated literally means God with us. He came to bring God close to us. Imagine you're a young child and you become separated from your mum in the supermarket and you don't know which way to go. You run to the end of an aisle, and just before you start to cry, you see a shadow on the floor at the end of the aisle that looks just like your mum. It makes you really happy and you feel hope. But what's better, the happiness of seeing the shadow or the moment that your mum actually steps around the corner and you see her face to face? It's really her. That's the way it is in the coming of Jesus. That's what Christmas is. Christmas is the replacement of shadows with the real thing, God with us. And through Jesus, God is now with us always. But let me say one more thing. Just ponder for a moment how God came to us. I don't know if you've ever played Chubby Bunnies, where you get a packet of marshmallows and you push as many into your mouth as you can, and then you have to say Chubby Bunny until you're either sick or you can't get any more in, you can't mouth the words Chubby Bunny. I used to do this in assemblies. I have felt now that primary schools are no longer appropriate with health and safety, with more vegan diets with allergies, all that. You used to be able to do it 20 years ago. We weren't thinking about those things, but I can't do it. Perhaps secondary school might work still. But I used to use it as an illustration of the big squeeze that happens at Christmas. Because then I talk about how God squeezes himself into human form. The wonder of Christmas is that God, who by definition is big, becomes tiny. He becomes one of us. God who merely spoke and the whole universe came into being. The whole universe has 100 billion galaxies, of which our galaxy, the Milky Way, which is a reasonably average one, has between 100 and 400 billion stars at the last estimation. And our sun is just one of those 400 billion. So one of 400 billion stars of 100 billion universes. And our sun isn't particularly impressive. It's on the edge. God spoke, and this whole universe came into being. There are more stars in our universe than grains of sand on all the beaches in our world. And yet, this same God comes to us in the person of Jesus, a tiny, vulnerable baby who is restricted in power, who's restricted in place, who's restricted in knowledge. And he lays aside his glory to become one of us so that he might lead us to God. In this, God demonstrates a different type of power than that we see exerted over and over again in the world around us. It's not a power that dominates. It's not a power that controls. It's not a power that wins by force and overpowers others. It is a power of vulnerability, a power of love, a power of self-giving, a power of seeking to win us to himself. And in so doing, he shows us a different way that challenges and undermines those systems of power that so often dominate our world. He brings a kingdom instead that is based not on might and power, but on love and giving and sacrifice and kindness. Is anyone listening to what the angels proclaimed that first Christmas? We still need Jesus. The world still needs Jesus. He came to reveal God to us. He came to bring God close to us, to show us a different way of living. And he doesn't force himself on us. He doesn't beat us into submission. He gives us a choice. He invites us one by one to receive him and to follow him and to be part of his kingdom. One ruled by love and not by fear, by self-giving and not by self-interest. And as Susie just read in our last reading, to all who accept Jesus and believe in him, he gives the right to become children of God. To all who accept Jesus and believe in him, he gives the right to become children of God. Is anyone listening to what the angels proclaim that first Christmas? Jesus comes with a different kind of kingdom to reveal God to us, a different way of being. He comes as God among us, bringing God close to us, and he invites us to be part of a different kingdom, a kingdom this world so badly needs.